The holy fire in Southern California has grown to 18,000 acres tonight. The homes that are threatened and the man suspected of starting it faces a judge. His bizarre outbursts in court.
Now we're checking in on some better air quality for you, plus talking about that weekend forecast.
Plus, the number of valley fever cases in Monterey County is on the rise. More on what's causing the outbreak and who is most at risk.
This is KION News Channel 546 at 11.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Amanda Gomez. We want to begin tonight with some breaking news out of Seattle, where an airline mechanic stole a plane from Seattle Tacoma International Airport. You can see some cell phone video here of the stolen plane flying overhead before crashing on an island outside of Seattle. Let's take a look at some more video from the scene now. The sheriff's office says the man was suicidal, the 29-year-old mechanic. He is presumed dead tonight. He was the only person on board. Now, this is video of the crash scene. The plane crashed on a small island with about 24 residents. The sheriff's office says this was not connected to terrorism. Again, they believe the man was suicidal. The sheriff's office tweeted the man was, quote, doing stunts in the air or lack of flying skills caused this crash. We do know military planes were chasing this plane and prevented it from crashing in a populated area, kept it in an area without a lot of people. Witnesses reported military planes chasing it before the crash. That plane belonged to Horizon Air, which is owned by Alaska Airlines. Again, only one man on board, an airline mechanic, stole that plane. We're continuing to follow this story for you and bring you any updates as soon as we learn more. Now to our other top story tonight. Wildfires still burning across California, ravaging our state, and the smoke from these fires has drifted as far as New England, more than 3,000 miles away. The major concern tonight is the holy fire. Jonathan Vigliotti starts us off by taking us inside the firefight.
We spent the past 2 days driving around this city, and everywhere you go, you'll see scenes like this. Firefighters with their hoses trained on these flames as they make their way dangerously close to homes.
It's the nightmare this community feared, a wall of flames bearing down on densely populated Lake Elsinore, thousands of homes in its path. Homes dwarfed by the towering flames edging perilously close. And this, the last desperate stand to save a neighborhood. What is truly amazing is that almost all were spared, a testament to those on the front lines.
Why do you do this?
I don't know. It's something you enjoy doing, and you know, you make a difference.
Oh my God! We saw it firsthand. Flames reaching into the yard of PJ Rodriguez's home. Thick smoke, embers flying all around. His house saved.
I had all the faith in these guys and trust, and they did what they were supposed to do.
Even with more than 1,000 firefighters battling the flames,
I was just trying to get out.
Some homeowners refused to evacuate.
Living room.
Dan Pritchett watched his mobile home burn down.
Do you feel lucky to be alive today, though, after seeing what your home was reduced to?
I feel very lucky, and that's just the house.
Conditions are still extreme. Several times the fire has roared back to life and could yet again. Numerous hotspots remain.
Lake Elsinore has been described as a powder keg, and as flame has met bone-dry brush, more than 10,000 acres have exploded. Firefighters say it could take several more weeks before the flames are put out. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Lake Elsinore, California.
And the man accused of starting the holy fire was in court for the first time today. Before his hearing, Forrest Clark refused to leave his jail cell, then a bizarre outbreak in court. During court, he called the charges against him a lie, and he claimed that he and his family were being threatened. His bail set at $1 million, an amount Clark said he could easily pay right now. His arraignment has been postponed until August 17th. Some good news for Yosemite National Park. The most popular section of that park will reopen next week. Yosemite Valley has been closed to visitors since July 25th because of the Ferguson fire there. Park officials say it'll now reopen on Tuesday. Even so, they caution park visitors that the fire is still active with smoke in that area that could impact driving conditions. And an update on the Mendocino Complex fire burning in several Northern California counties. It includes the ranch and river fires. The complex fire has burned more than 300,000 acres. It is 60% contained tonight. There have not been any deaths, but 119 homes have been destroyed. This is the largest fire in state history.
All right, let's check in with weather now and see how things are affecting us locally. We woke up once again on this Friday morning to a lot of smoke and haze in the air. This was the view from our Mount Toro webcam, looking down on Spreckles and Salinas, and you could see it was a hazy start to the day. And we stayed hazy for most of the day, but we did get some clearing later on in the afternoon and into the evening hours. So it was just a little bit less hazy. The reason why is our marine layer really started to deepen today as the big trough of low pressure off the west coast began to move in. As that moves in, it allows that marine layer to deepen. As that marine layer deepens, we send that cool, clean ocean air farther inland. It cleans us out along the coast, and that's what we saw today, and that's what we'll continue to see tomorrow. So an improvement to our low-level air quality. Working against us, unfortunately, is this big ridge of high pressure here. We've got clockwise flow around that. That's going to bring some high clouds back in, or at least some high smoke, I should say, back in from the east over the next couple days. So we still will be a little bit hazy as we head into the weekend, but the low levels will be nice and cleaned out as we look at our air quality out there tonight. Good conditions being reported at all of the reporting sites. So we'll take a closer look at that weekend forecast coming up, Amanda.
All right, Dan, thank you. In your health alert, the Monterey County Health Department is reporting an alarming number of valley fever cases. While we don't know what's driving the increase, we do know the communities most impacted. KION's Mariana Hicks reports.
Monterey County is seeing a large number of valley fever cases. In 2016, there were 80 cases. 2017, 190. Already this year, 142 cases.
That's very concerning because most of the cases are diagnosed in late summer and fall, between the months of August and December.
Most of the cases are happening in South Monterey County, Soledad, Greenfield, King City, and unincorporated communities, areas known to be both windy and dusty.
We know that the organism that causes valley fever will germinate and grow and spread during rainy conditions, and then during the dry conditions they form little spores that can stay dormant for years.
Construction workers, military workers, wildland firefighters, and anyone disturbing the soil is most at risk. Ag workers are not at a higher risk of getting valley fever, and that's because the soil that they're working in is cultivated and watered so often it doesn't allow the organism to grow.
Farm workers working in the fields are at this time not considered to be at increased risk of exposure or illness from valley fever unless they themselves live in an area somewhere else in the community where the spore is more prevalent.
African Americans and Filipinos are at a higher risk for severe cases, as well as those with weakened immune systems.
The Monterey County Fair is taking steps to prevent cases of the so-called swine flu this year. The fair says all pigs will undergo rigorous inspections and people won't be allowed to show any infected pigs, of course. The fair is also urging exhibitors to take the proper precautions when working with the pigs. Anyone at high risk of swine flu complications should avoid the pigs at the swine barn at that fair. If you are not high risk and you are planning on going and checking out the pigs, here are a few things to keep in mind. Don't eat or drink or put anything in your mouth in the pig barn and the show arena. Don't take toys, pacifiers, cups, bottles, strollers, or any similar items into the swine barn. Wash your hands often. If you are sick with a flu-like illness, of course, stay home. The fair goes from August 30th to September 3rd. Your crime alert now. Santa Cruz County Sheriff's deputies discovered one of the largest butane honey oil labs they've investigated in recent years this week. On Tuesday, deputies were called to a property near Cathedral Drive for a suspicious car being loaded with bags of pot. Deputies got a search warrant and found a butane honey oil operation in a pop-up garage on that property in Aptos. The lab contained about 3,000 pounds of loose marijuana, 25 pounds of processed butane honey oil, and equipment worth about $40,000. They also found guns, ammo, and cash. 2 men from Aptos are suspected of running that operation. And a suspected drunk driver hit and killed a man in the Santa Cruz Mountains early this morning. The CHP said 24-year-old Terilyn McKay of Boulder Creek was going northbound on Highway 9 south of Bear Creek Road when she hit the man around 2 this morning. The victim was found unconscious on the roadway. He was taken to a trauma center where he died. Covering Monterey, the Monterey-Salinas Transit bus system has been growing here on the Central Coast, but despite that growth, it could be facing some cuts soon. Monterey-Salinas Transit is seeing the highest record of bus riders since 2008, but a November ballot initiative that repeals the gas tax also threatens to cut off some funding to public transportation, including MST. While Prop 6 supporters argue Californians are being taxed too much, MST is worried it'll cost them. If Prop 6 passes, MST says they are prepared to cut services. Here's a new concept, an open bar at church. That's one thing you'll be seeing at a new spot in downtown Santa Cruz. The Greater Purpose Community Church will be opening a new restaurant and a brewery at the Old Logos bookstore. It'll also be offering church service on Sundays. Christopher Van Hall, a reverend with Greater Purpose, says there have been some misconceptions about the two going together, but they wanted a space for everyone to enjoy.
When you come in as a customer Monday through Saturday, you're not going to be preached at all. You're not getting a church service. There's not going to be biblical merchandise anywhere, nothing like that. It's going to be a safe space for people of all faith or no faith and people of all sexual and gender identities. On Sundays, we will have church in the bar, but it's going to be before we open to the public. So it's not going to be like anyone's getting duped into coming to church at any point.
Van Hall says 30 to 60% of their profit will be going to local charities like Planned Parenthood and Save Our Shores. There will be a limit on drinks to keep the place family friendly. They're still early in the permit and licensing process, but it's all expected to be up and running by the end of 2019. Some news around California now. A trade war between the U.S. and China will force our state's recycling industry into a crisis. That's according to experts who are calling on lawmakers to help. This week, the Chinese government announced plans to levy a 25% tax on imports of cardboard and scrap plastic. This comes as retaliation against U.S. tariffs, which will go into effect on August 23rd. California recycling experts say China is a pivotal market. Last year, the Chinese imported over 60% of California's cardboard recyclables. This year, that number has plummeted by 80%. California is starting to export more recyclables to other countries, but experts say the state must start manufacturing those items here.
Especially in California, talking about paper mills, I think we have to relook at our policies around plastics. It's a problematic material. It's ending up in our oceans. It's not the easiest material to recycle.
For the immediate future, recycling experts fear more of these materials will end up in landfills or stockpiled in local recycling centers. Coming up here, a local festival to check out this weekend where you can wine and dine tomorrow. And later, as Car Week approaches, what police are doing to keep our roadways safe.
It's pretty deep. It's scary. There's cars already going under. There's people freaking out.
Winds might have dropped down, but the water continues to rise as Hurricane Florence slams the Carolinas. Hear from people making a desperate escape and what more is heading their way. And in Texas, we have details on a Border Patrol agent being called a serial killer, how his alleged next victim escaped, and helped with the arrest.
And I'll have the latest on Tropical Storm Florence along with our local forecast coming up.
And in Monterey, big changes coming to Cannery Row. Details on the new waterfront housing that's in the works.
This is KION News Channel 546 on the Central Coast CW.
This is not a talking point. This is not a script, but we are saying this because we're concerned with you. The worst is yet to come.
The danger continues in the Carolinas tonight. The death toll now up to 13, more than a day after Hurricane Florence made landfall. While the wind slowed, water is filling city streets, creating catastrophic situations for people in these neighborhoods. As you heard from the mayor of Fayetteville a moment ago, this is far from over. In North and South Carolina, flooding, power outages, downed power lines and trees, roofs collapsing. More than 1 million people were without power, and about 2,000 flights have already been canceled since just Friday. Now, behind me, you can see more of what crews are dealing with. Mandatory evacuation still underway across parts of North Carolina. Hundreds of people have been and are still being rescued. That's part of what you're seeing here, doing anything they can do to get to safety. CBS's Courtney Zabowski is in Wilmington tonight with our top story.
Florence is showing no mercy to North Carolina.
The slow-moving storm has virtually stalled, dumping relentless rain after making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane.
We've been here for most of my life, and this is the first time it's ever gotten that high.
Water is rising fast in the northeast part of the state, leaving entire communities flooded in Jacksonville. People trapped in their submerged homes have been rescued by boat and helicopter. Anthony Love watched as the water crept up to his front door. He says he wasn't taking any chances.
You see the water coming in, it's like, okay, are we going to stay here and get wet, or are we going to go ahead and leave?
Wilmington is slowly starting to clean up and recover. This grocery store opened early this morning just in time. People here have been running out of supplies.
Well, we were prepared. We had a lot of supplies and stuff, but you can only buy so much ahead of time. And then you know that there's certain things that you're going to run out of.
But the city's mayor told residents who evacuated to stay where they are as crews clear streets and restore power.
It could be weeks, literally weeks.
In Cumberland County, mandatory evacuations are now in effect. Officials say the Cape Fear River may crest above 62 feet.
We're talking about flooding that has not been seen to this degree, potentially, since 1945.
Joseph Manley remembers the destruction Hurricane Matthew caused 2 years ago. He decided to ride out the storm in a shelter in Fayetteville.
They said that water was going to get deep.
Another 1.5 feet of rain may fall before the weekend is over. Courtney Zabowski, CBS News, Wilmington, North Carolina.
Unbelievable images we're seeing out of there. Now, expect to get a text message from President Trump on Thursday. You heard that right. FEMA's testing a new system for severe weather and missing children. It'll be titled Presidential Alert, but right now it is only a test. Cell phone carriers, including AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, will participate. FEMA will also test the system on radio and TV stations. With that, we want to go to meteorologist Zach McIntyre. Zach, back to our hurricane. What are we seeing right now? I know this is an incredibly slow storm, so it's just lingering over the Carolinas.
Yeah, Aaron, we were just talking about how slow this is moving. It's only moving at 3 miles per hour right now. And as you actually said, that's slower than you can really actually walk.
You can outwalk this storm.
You can outwalk this storm, Aaron, and we are seeing that right now. This storm, we'll go ahead and pull up some graphics, just how slow it's moving. It officially made that landfall early yesterday morning, and that was on the coast of South and North Carolina, and we can see it's really barely moved 100 miles since that point, and because of that we're still getting a lot of rain on these states here. So we'll zoom in, you can see these outer rain bands still dumping rain on places like Wilmington. You can still see these yellow and reds, or dark oranges, I should say. That's the really heavy rains, that's the severe storms there. And as it continues to move through, we can still see another foot of rain for places like Wilmington, and at least 6 to 8 inches for some of our inland spots as we go in. So Charlotte could see almost 7 inches of rain and 6 inches for Raleigh. And as this continues to track out, still moving at 3 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour sustained winds at this moment. So still powerful winds when they're sustained. You've got that soggy ground with all that wind and rain. These trees can start falling down. As we go into Sunday, this is starting to move out of South Carolina late Sunday evening and before it starts to drift off. And I'll have more on our forecast coming up. As far as South Carolina, North Carolina, the rains will keep coming down. Back to you, Aaron.
Yeah, and it's that right side of the storm to pay attention to, Zach. Thank you. An absolutely chilling story out of Texas tonight. A man was arrested, accused of killing 4 people. Authorities are calling him a serial killer. 35-year-old Juan David Ortiz is facing 4 murder charges. The sheriff's office says the bodies of 3 women and 1 man were found just over the past 2 weeks. They are not ruling out the possibility of more victims. Now get this, all of the women were prostitutes, and the man may have been one too.
We do consider this to be a serial killer. It meets the qualifications or definition of being a serial killer. In this case, we have 4 people that have been murdered.
He was caught after a woman he allegedly kidnapped managed to escape. She gave state troopers a detailed description that included his tattoos. Ortiz has been a Border Patrol agent for 10 years and served in the U.S. Navy. And in Massachusetts today, a man died after being bitten by a shark. This was in the Cape Cod area today. People at the beach pulled him from the water and performed CPR, but he did die at the hospital. This is the second shark attack of the summer there, but the first fatal one since back in 1936. Also in the state, people are returning home after dozens of massive gas explosions. The blast killed one person and forced evacuations in parts of 3 different towns. People are still looking for answers, but that video, again, very strong. All right, covering Monterey County tonight, a forgotten spot on Cannery Row will look a whole lot different soon. Where Monterey's original cannery once stood, now has plans that include housing where people can wake up to a view of the bay. KION's Megan Meyer explains how local businesses feel about the change.
Opinions are split for a section of Cannery Row, an area formerly known as Ocean View Plaza, has sat untouched for decades. A look into the past.
I mean, this is history.
Or an eyesore.
The broken down buildings, it doesn't seem too safe out there.
The original cannery is still standing, but no matter your stance, changes are coming. The city and developers plan to add shops, restaurants, attractions, and even waterfront housing, with 51 residential units. Word of the news is spreading.
I was a little kid 60 years ago coming here, and to see some of these buildings that have deteriorated over the years, it's sad. However, for them to preserve it as well as build some other buildings, other structures here, I think it's a great idea.
The project includes plans for a history museum dating back to year 1902 when this factory was built. Ruby Falls Fund, the developers behind the project, say they are looking to build something that the community will be proud of. The site's neighbor's Mexican restaurant El Torito is looking forward to seeing the final product.
We have to keep the history intact, I think. We can't just tear everything down and have beachfront. This used to be a pretty big part of California, so we should preserve it for as long as we can. Developers say construction plans are in the works and they'll break ground in mid to late 2019. In Monterey, Megan Meyer, KION News Channel 546.
All right, big plans there. Well, tomorrow, cities around the Central Coast are celebrating Mexican Independence Day. It actually started with a parade in Salinas earlier today, but tomorrow, a whole lot more. So let's take a look at last year. This was 2 years ago, excuse me. Now, tomorrow's El Grito Festival is hosted by the Cultural Committee of Salinas. They've got live music and plenty of food planned for tomorrow, with the group's president saying in a release that they are excited to showcase local businesses. It runs from 11 in the morning to 7 at night, right along East Dallasau Street in Salinas. So if you are going, that's where it is. If not, plan your drive accordingly. They're expecting about 50,000 people. Watsonville taking part as well tomorrow between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Police say Main Street is shut down between Beach and Maple Avenues and Peck Street between Union and Main. And in King City, their Independence celebration is from 11 to 5 at the fairgrounds. Around California, investigators in Tulare County are trying to figure out how cocaine ended up on a middle school campus yesterday morning. According to the sheriff's office, a 13-year-old boy brought 2 orange balloons with smaller pouches of cocaine inside. That's what you're looking at here. A group of kids were playing with the balloons by the basketball courts when they opened. 2 students then reported feeling dizzy and were taken to the hospital.
They threw them. They just threw them around and then they poured it on someone.
13 kids ended up being evaluated, but officials are confident that the exposure was not dangerous. Parents are calling for more security around the school to keep this from happening again. The student who brought the drugs and his parents are being questioned and searched. In San Francisco, a part of Golden Gate Park now being renamed after late actor Robin Williams. They're calling it Robin Williams Meadow. The announcement came just before the start of the annual Free Comedy Day festival this weekend, where he was a regular performer. Williams died from a reported suicide at his home in 2014. He was 63 years old and certainly one of the greats of comedy. Well, coming up next, Zach will have the full forecast for the rest of your weekend, plus a satellite launched from California this morning, what NASA's planning to do with it. And then later, a cleanup at Del Monte Beach, part of a massive effort organized out of Santa Cruz. We'll explain next. At Vandenberg Air Force Base here in California, NASA launched a satellite that they say will help us learn more about the Earth's environment.
3, 2, 1.
And we have liftoff. The satellite is called IceSat-2, now in orbit. When it gets there, it'll measure polar ice sheets, changes in sea level, the height of forest canopies and clouds. It'll be adding to results of earlier missions. Pretty cool. But back here locally, trash left on beaches has threatened wildlife all along the coast. And today, Del Monte Beach was part of a statewide effort to fix the problem. It's called California Coastal Cleanup Day. Santa Cruz-based nonprofit Save Our Shores helped organize about 80 spots here on the Central Coast. Volunteers picked up trash covering 71 miles of beach.
I mean, it's windy here. Things blow right in and it can get wrapped around those animals. We see plenty of washed up species here as well. So the more we can pick up, the less that gets out there.
So here are those results. 5,000 pounds of trash were picked up with the help of over 2,300 people. The group says many of the items collected could have threatened wildlife and people. So let's take a look at those numbers again. A massive haul of trash. Some of the weirdest stuff they found included a beer distiller, a car engine, a hubcap, and bedazzled platform shoes. So I don't know how many, maybe it was, but I think they a few decades maybe before you were born. I don't know,
you're probably
70s,
right.
probably around that time.
Yeah, you know, it's always good to see them doing this every year and keeping those beaches clean. It really does work.
It does. Again, so many thousands of pounds taken off. We're happy about that. And our forecast, what's it look like for people outside today?
For people cleaning up today, it was absolutely beautiful. I was out just surfing this morning actually, and it was gorgeous. The
beach weather.
Yeah, you're right. It was just packed today. People all over. This was Silmar State Beach. People were in the water surfing. People were on the beach just hanging out. And it was feeling amazing today. I actually hopped in the water for an hour or two without my wetsuit. I was just in my swimming trunks today. Water was still cold, but the air temperature today was feeling pretty nice before that sea breeze picked up. And if you're heading out to the beach tomorrow, expect temperatures to warm up a couple degrees. If you're in the Santa Cruz area, expect temperatures mostly in the mid-70s. It's going to be feeling very nice tomorrow before the winds start to pick up. On the peninsula, temperatures mostly in the mid to upper 60s. Sunny skies with a few patchy clouds swinging by the peninsula throughout the day. But other than that, we've got a nice mixed swell out there, 3 to 5 feet if you're heading out tomorrow. And let me talk about these winds. We are going to be a little bit breezy to windy as we go throughout the day tomorrow. We've got low pressure still in place. This will start to scoot north a bit tomorrow. That'll still keep that sea breeze in effect, but that will allow temperatures to warm up a few degrees as we head throughout the day. Along with that, starting off with clear skies in the morning as we head throughout the afternoon. Could see a few low passing clouds along the peninsula. Other than that, we're seeing beautiful sunny skies inland. And if you're heading out to Wattsville tomorrow for the Santa Cruz County Fair, look for temperatures mostly in the mid-70s. It will be a bit breezy at times, but if you're going to watch some of those racing pigs out there, perfect weather for that. It's going to be gorgeous. That's pretty much the story for most locations tomorrow. Most places in the Santa Cruz Mountains staying in the 70s to near 80s. Santa Cruz, you'll be at 82 degrees tomorrow with mid-70s over in Capitola. As we head down the coast, temperatures still mostly in the near 70s, 71 degrees in Salinas. Upper 70s for Hollister, 82 if you're heading out to Gilroy tomorrow. And on the peninsula, temperatures in the upper 60s for Monterey, a bit warmer out in Carmel. It's going to be a perfect place to go to avoid some of that wind tomorrow. It'll block some of that with the peninsula, temperature right around 70 degrees. And as we start going down south, temperatures mostly in the 70s in the Salinas Valley, 80s for the Pinnacles, 88 in Parkfield, and 86. So a very mild day, staying below our seasonable temperatures. As we take a look at the next 7 days, we're staying breezy these next couple days. Temperatures warming up a little bit tomorrow, and we'll start cooling down as we head into Monday and Tuesday. Inland spots, you're going to be breezy these next couple days. Cooling down before we get to our next week's warm-up. And I'm going to end on a little surprise here. Our old friend, how cool, that's a little dust devil. This was sent in to us from Jason Ashew, our previous morning meteorologist out in Watsonville. And just look at this thing spinning. That's a little dust devil. Beautiful.
So I want to ask you, Zach, why is this not considered a tornado? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so dust devils form on clear and sunny days. You've got the tornadoes that form on the cloudy days. And dust devils are far less strong. The strongest dust devil you'll get is about a weak tornado, but occasionally they can do a little bit of damage normally.
That one doesn't look like it'll do too much, huh?
Nah.
All right, Zach. Thank you very much. Coming up next, we take a look at your sports highlights. Oakland A's in action today. Plus, Amazon CEO named the world's wealthiest person this year. Find out where he says he'll be donating his money.